actually start the workshop. So yes, Tamika, welcome, welcome. This I'm going to do the replay is going to be sent to you as well. So you'll have it for your reference. That's, why we're recording. But we'll just do like a little relaxing and unwinding, which we just did. I'm going to pause the music. Yeah. We'll do an opening activity. Today's opening activity is a little different from the next 3 days because today's opening activity is just kind of a little extra background info.
Okay.
There was another journal thing that I left out for this particular challenge. So ignore the questions and clarifications. We won't be doing that. We'll be doing some group reading and discussion. We'll do a breakthrough activity. And that you'll want either a piece of paper or your journal for. And then we'll do a wrap-up discussion. Did you have any questions about the flow?
No, but I'm gonna, I thought my pen was right here. Give me 1 second, I'll grab a pen.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Everything in the Facebook Live seems to be totally frozen, right? I don't think it's working right. Anyway, it's like, let me put it back. So I know we've known each other for a while, Tamika, but you may not know how this came about. So I will just share a little bit of background, how Evict Fear came about when I lost my job and I only had my business, which was not earning enough income to sustain me because it had always been my part-time side work. But I committed to not panicking. And then my best friend got really curious. She was actually really worried. She was like, I'm worried that you're not more worried, Beth. And I said, oh, it's my focus. So I'm going to be sharing over the next 4 days a different key each day. So there's going to be 4 keys each day. And those are the keys, the main things, not the only things that I did, but the main things that I focused in on to not panic. Because yes, when I started January 2022, so I just count that because it was a new year. Oh, welcome, Jessica. And yes, so Jessica, I'm just giving a bit of background on how this challenge, Evict Fear, came to be. So I just shared that I had lost my job and my business was not earning enough. And my best friend was really puzzled why I was not worried more. She was worried about me not being worried. And I'm not going to go through all of the things that happened the very first year, but it was just a complete weird disaster, one after another. So for example, this is like one of the weirdest things that happened to me. I went on a walk. I was upstate. There'd been a snowstorm and I went on this walk. I was visiting my parents. That's where my parents live. And it was spring. It was like April. Yeah, April. So the snow was kind of wet and heavy and it just like fell off a tree limb and landed about here on my glasses and my glasses broke.
Oh my God.
So yeah. So now in addition to not having the income like I normally had, I was getting weird, like really weird, random, unexpected expenses. In August, the end of last year, my catalytic converter was stolen on my car. I became carless. Well, I have a car now, thankfully. Thank God for my business. I was able to finance it and everything through my business, but it was just like a lot, right? So how to focus and remain calm. And I pretty much did these things. I committed to not freaking out. I definitely shifted my focus and I committed to moving forward strategically one day at a time. In fact, if you know me and you've ever like messaged me and been like, hey, Beth, how you doing? I'll literally write back most of the time, I'm just minding my business, because that's really my focus versus, you know, all the things that are going wrong. And yeah, so basically, you know, this year has also, my second year, had a lot of challenges, very different challenges, but day by day I'm advancing. So that is where the background on evict fear, how this came about. So if you are ready, we'll get into key number 1. You guys ready for the first key that we'll do for today?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we need to understand, and what I learned I had to understand, is what fear is exactly. And when we understand what fear is, then we know what we're fighting and what it is that we're up against, so to speak. And when we know what we're up against and what we're dealing with, then we can begin freeing ourselves from limiting beliefs, whether it's about the current situation we're in, like, oh my gosh, my glasses just broke. Now I have to figure out how to get new glasses. And I mean, I need glasses. They're not an option for me. Or the future, you know, what's going to happen down the road. And what I learned was about strengthening my character. So we're going to go into that a little bit more later on in today on the strengthening character. And that part is going to go into, just to bring you up to speed, Jessica, there's several things. So the opening activity I'm about ready to go into, the breakthrough activity, is where we'll really get into this part of strengthening our character. So, all right. So this is the premise for, there's 2 types of fear. Did you know that?
That there was 2 types of fears?
There's 2 types of fear. Yes.
Not really, I guess.
Okay. No, it's fine. That's why you're in the challenge. If you don't know it, it's totally okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you mean, so I'll listen.
It's okay. It's okay. I want to ask questions to make sure you're all still with me. And I didn't know this either. Jessica, did you have something you wanted to add? No?
No, I was gonna say I didn't know that either. I wasn't sure. I thought it was a trick question. I was like, what
No.
kind of fears are we talking about? Heights? Or what?
Well, it's not that complicated. You'll, as soon as we get into it, you'll see. And you'll be like, aha. And that's how we can know how, in our mind, how we have to manage it. Okay. So 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 gives us a clue. It tells us one type of fear. Does anyone want to read that one, please?
Go ahead, Jessica, because I was just
Okay. For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind.
Yes, very good. Thank you so much for reading. So does that give you a clue on what one type of fear might be?
We're talking for both of us to answer, or just me?
Whoever wants to.
I guess I'm not sure what you mean as far, because okay, if I'm reading this, then you know, I don't know, it just makes you think like spiritually, you know, like, so that's the only thing I could think of.
Yes, you're absolutely right. There's a spiritual aspect to fear. So sometimes fear is spiritual. I'm not sure, actually, to be honest, what anyone's background here is in terms of faith. But according to this, fear can be an actual spirit. So like, you know how sometimes, or people will say, oh, he did that or she did that in a spirit of love or in a spirit of generosity, right? Those are really good things. But sometimes fear can be a spirit. That's only one aspect. So the other aspect is emotion. So it can be either an emotion that we're fighting, which is just, based on maybe a trauma or a heartbreak. Maybe someone rejected us and now we're afraid of being rejected again with the next person we're dating. Maybe we lost our job and now we have like the emotion of fear, like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen next? Right? So there's that's one emotion, and the other is the spirit or the spiritual part. So I'm going to break it down into detail. So the emotion of fear actually is not always bad. It can be actually really good. We just have to know what it is. So it can keep us safe, like instinct, right? So instinctively, when I'm out and about, I want to stay on the curb if there's traffic coming, right? The idea of stepping in front of a speeding bike or car, right? That keeps me safe. I'm afraid to get hit, so I'm going to stay back, right? So it's a good thing sometimes. Fear can also be pleasure. So think about like amusement park rides, zip lining, parachuting. Now you may be saying, oh my gosh, those all sound terrifying, but for some people, those are really fun, right? Riding on a bike, a motorcycle, race car drivers. There's like a lot of different things that it's a fear, but there's like a pleasure in it. And then there's the downside of fear of the emotion, because it is felt in our bodies and our body does retain, like our muscles have memory. So the fight or flight, sometimes that, can come up over and over again. And when also we're in an emotion of fear, we can get really confused. Like our thinking may not be clear. Like, is this the best decision? Maybe it's not the best decision. And that overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an emotional aspect. So how do you know if you're dealing with an emotion? And when you're dealing with emotion, that's just kind of mindset, right? You can do like your affirmations and your different things. But so that's one way of evicting it. But the spirit of fear, it's a different type of fear. And so it requires a different type of strategy to evict. The spirit of fear is compulsory. I have the hardest time. Can you say that word for me, please?
Compulsory.
Thank you. Every time. I don't know why. I think I try to overpronounce each letter. Thank you, Tamika.
Yeah.
It's like a driving force. It's almost when you're acting like against your will, like you're self-sabotaging. Like, why did I do that again? It also can be, in part that you're dealing in a spirit of fear if you're not in a place of trust. You don't trust God, you don't trust yourself, you don't trust others. So when you are going into things, it could be simple, like, Tamika, you're a business owner, right? You have an accountant maybe. Like,
No,
oh, I don't know if I trust my accountant. Let me just double check everything. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
you know that you've had that accountant for 15 years and he or she's been good. And they've, everyone's human, but you know what I'm saying? Like the experience is saying that there's no reason to distrust, but like you're up at night and you're like, well, what if, and this and that, and I don't know if I can trust them. And I'm not talking about ignoring, like gut instincts, but that it's like you're just going through life and you're not trusting yourself, God, or others. You're kind of more operating in a spirit of fear versus an emotion. So before I go on and break it down a little bit further, do either one of you have any further any questions or thoughts? No? Okay. So I have a little chart for you all. So we're going to do a lot on mindset in a little bit with our breakthrough activity. So that will be how we can manage and evict the emotion of fear. But the spirit of fear, because it's spiritual, it requires a little bit of a different strategy. Now, again, like I said, in the description for the Eventbrite link, I did share that this is taught from a biblical perspective. So like I said, I'm not quite sure where everyone's faith background is. If you don't subscribe to the Bible, it's okay. It's fine. But this spiritual part that I'm going to share, I just want to put it as a precursor. There's a lot of things in the Bible that's like literally for anyone, whether they believe in God or not. And then there are some things that are in there that like for people who really have a relationship with God and Jesus. So this is one of those things. So for example, the spirit of fear is compulsory. It's a driving force. But God's spirit, which is what he gives us, what he wants, if we go back to here, he does not give us fear. If we are afraid, it doesn't come from him. Know that. Because one of the things he gives us is love and peace. He's not like pushing us and like, oh my gosh, I need to do this now, or I have to like run away now, or I have to, I mean, I'm not talking about like like a warning sign, a red flag, but I'm talking about that thing in you that you're, for example, limiting yourself and your ability to receive love, give love. Someone gives you a compliment, you ignore it. You can't take it. Like you can't receive it. You're uncomfortable with it, right? That's like actually, kind of fear-based because it's, it's going deep, right? Versus like God's spirit, which is kindness, right? So if someone gives you a compliment, you're like, oh, that's so kind of you. Thank you so much. Right? And you are able to receive. The spirit of fear also like can be connected with jealousy, perfectionism, self-comparison. You're just really never feeling like you're adding up, being worthy. It's just kind of like that anxiety of, do I deserve this? Do I deserve love? Do I deserve this promotion? Do I deserve my business to thrive? Well, I'm not as good as so-and-so, right? These are all, because it's like this compulsory driving force that's kind of, you're not trusting yourself or others to really mean the compliments, or you're not trusting God to bless you, whatever it is. Thinking that being realistic is like the best way to be. Of course, we want to live in reality. I'm not saying that, but like, oh, well, it's just realistic that my supervisor never likes anyone and gives everyone a, poor rating. So let me just be realistic and just expect that my meeting with my supervisor is not going to go well. Like that type of self-talk. That's what I mean by being realistic, like kind of being afraid to hope. Addictions are a lot of times used to cover up fears, whether they're like sex addictions, drug addictions, shopping addictions, food addictions. A lot of times that covers up at the root, there's fear. People pleasing, self-sabotage. Like, why did I do that again? I was trying to save for my vacation, but I just like blew it all on a bag. Why did I do that? That's like an example of self-sabotage. So these things basically, the spirit of fear is going to lie to you. It's going to lie to me about yourself, others, and your situation, right? Like if I go back to this example here, right? I could have been like, well, the most my business has ever earned in any year, at my business is not earning $3,000 a year anymore. It's still not where it needs to be. But when I started, I was like, on average, was like, as a photographer, because I'm also a photographer. I don't think you knew that, Jessica. It was like at $3,000 a year. So if I had been realistic or I had listened to the lie, it would have been like, you're doomed. Like, just quit. Just don't even try. What's the point? right? That would have been a lie. Okay. So God's spirit, does anyone want to read, in addition to love and peace and kindness, the other things that God's spirit gives us?
I'll read it.
Thank you.
You want me to start with self-control?
Sure, thanks.
Self-control, faithfulness, joy, patience, goodness, gentleness.
Thank you. So this is how we fight the spirit of fear, how we evict it. And again, for this to work, and I can back this up with a verse, and I do want to just share this. You really want to make sure that you have a personal relationship with God and with Jesus, because if it doesn't, I'm going to look up and show you guys, it will backfire. But what you can literally do is when you find yourself in one of these places, like you're jealous, or you're finding yourself going down a people pleasing or an overthinking, or you're just getting like anxiety, you can literally speak to it. God does give us the power to do that for those of us who follow him and have relationship with him, to literally, those things are underneath us. You know, we are the head and not the tail. So you can literally say, spirit of fear, you must go and you must leave now in Jesus' name. And then you can literally pray whatever it is that you need. So God, you see what's happening here. I need you to give me your spirit of love. I need your spirit of peace. So you literally, if you get rid of something, you have to replace it with something else. So if you're going to get rid of fear, if you just leave yourself empty, think about it like cleaning your kitchen, spring cleaning, right? If I'm cleaning out my cupboards, right? And now I've got my cupboards all organized. If I don't replace it with some sort of system, right? Like one of those little lazy Susans or some kind of like little rack to store my cans of tuna or whatever. If I don't put some kind of system in place to keep my cupboard looking neat, within a week, my cupboard is going to look like it did before spring cleaning or worse, right? Am I the only one that's had that happen?
I get it.
Right? So it's the same thing for us spiritually when we're evicting something. And also it's the same thing emotionally when we're evicting something, and mentally, even in our thought process, if we're getting rid of it, we have to replace it with something new. So I do want to share, I can never remember the verse. So I'm gonna Google it like this. It's Jesus. Okay, so there's this story where, you know what, I'm gonna just look up all of Acts 19. Oops. Okay. So there's this story where disciples, there were people who were going and they were like delivering people from different spirits. Okay. Where did it go? So there were like all these miracles. So say, for example, the spirit of fear, right? And Paul would say, in the spirit of fear, in Jesus' name, you must leave, right? So there were some Jews who went around and they tried to invoke the name of the Lord Jesus over those who were demon possessed. So they saw that people were getting freedom from whatever it was that was oppressing them. But since we're talking about fear, we'll use fear. So say like all these people were getting, you know, free from fear, right? These people who didn't really know God so much, they didn't know his son Jesus, they were just like, oh, this is kind of cool. People are not being bothered. They're not having these spiritual oppressions anymore, possessions. So they decided to try what they saw Paul do. So there were these 7 sons of Sceva. I'm not really sure who they were. They went out and they tried this out, and on someone. And one day the evil spirits answered them and they said, Jesus, I know, and Paul, I know about. So because these people had relationship with God, right? But who are you? And then the man who had the evil spirit jumped on them and overpowered them all. And he gave them such a beating that they ran out of the house naked and bleeding. So when we do try this, I just want to be really careful because I'm also going to be, I'm recording this in the replay and I don't know who all is of what faith background when they join my challenge. So I just want to make it very clear that for spiritual warfare in this case, for it to actually have the power, we have to have that relationship with God. We have to have that relationship with Jesus, because if we don't, and it does say in another place in the Bible that every knee will bow, every tongue will confess that Jesus is Lord. So whether, everything in the spirit realm does recognize Jesus, and they either would know him or not, but they were like, well, we don't know who you are, but we know this person and we know this person because these people were famous for having a relationship with God, but we don't know you. That meant they had not had a relationship with God. Does that make sense? Any questions? I just wanted to go over that. And then there's this other verse. He swept out. No. There's this story where this person is like kind of cleaning their house, and they like clean it up, but they don't replace it with something. They don't replace it in this case with God, and so they become worse off. And the latter state, was worse than the first. Okay. So there's this man, maybe I don't want to go into it so much, but it's in Matthew. You can look it up on your own time, because I'm looking at the time. I want to make sure we have enough time for the breakthrough activity and everything. But Matthew 12:44 through 45, you can read it for yourself. But it talks about this man, and he had cleaned his house out. He'd swept it, like he'd evicted fear or anything else that was bothering him. He'd gotten rid of it. He swept it out. And then because he didn't replace it with things like the love or the joy, he didn't replace it with God and to keep himself organized, he ended up in a worse state spiritually than before. So I'll let you read that on your own. Do we have any questions before we go on? Or thoughts?
Mhm.
No? Okay. So, all right. So we already determined that love is the kind of like the opposite of fear in a way, when we talked about this, because God doesn't give us fear, but he gives us power, love, and sound mind. So this builds on top of that. 1 John 4:18. Would anyone like to read that one, please?
Okay, I'll jump in this time. If that's
Thank you.
great.
Thank you.
There's no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love.
Okay. So yes, does anyone have any thoughts about this?
Mm. Mm. Wait, the one- Mm. just that it's reiterating, that, especially with that second line, that love drives out the fear. So it's just reiterating that it won't take place then there if there's true love there.
Yes. So love is kind of, you can think of it as the antidote, right? To fear. It says it literally drives out fear. So if we're going to evict fear, then one of the big important things that is important to replace in our lives is love. But how to do that, right? Because
That actually reminds me of the polka dice.
what?
The movie, the polka dice. The polka dice. The first one at the end where the family's getting together, they're trying to tell them that, the horror movie that they had that, it's afraid of your love. The evil thing was afraid of their love. You guys don't remember that movie?
I never saw it. I don't like being scared.
The polka dice. Oh my God, it's a classic.
Is it? Yeah, I missed
Fine.
I don't think I've seen it either.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
I feel
Yeah,
like
I stopped watching scary movies like over 15 years now. If I watch a scary movie, it's by accident. Not on purpose.
It's an old movie. It's a classic. And it's with the little girl Caroline. And she gets, the poltergeist is coming. The whole thing with the TV. I cannot believe I'm the only
The
one.
TV, that she comes out the TV.
She doesn't come up. No, you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. Not that. No. Oh my gosh. I need you both to look up Poltergeist. And
I don't want to have nightmares tonight.
oh my
all right.
God.
Well, anyway, but I do love the analogy that movie kind of talks about this, where fear is afraid of love. And it does say that God is love. There's a verse in the Bible as well that literally says that. So fear is going to be afraid of something powerful. So now, in order to know how to replace fear with love, then we have to know what love is, right? It's like kind of hard to know how to replace something if we don't know what that thing is that we're replacing, right? So this is very famous, 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8. And this is going to lead us into what we'll be using for our breakthrough activity. Remember, I was talking about strengthening our character. We're going to work on it through strengthening our character through love. And I'm going to break it down so it's not into like a real simple step for you, but let's just kind of go. Who wants to read what the definition of love is according to 1 Corinthians 13?
I'll read it.
Thank you.
Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud, it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres.
Yes, thank you. That's a lot, right? It's a lot. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus in for this evening's breakthrough activity on one aspect, okay? So for us to develop and become love, that's kind of like a really big order. It can be very overwhelming. So we're going to make it manageable so that we can be successful. All right, so we're going to do a character word study. So you're going to either use a piece of paper or your journal, and you're going to choose a love characteristic to write down that you want to become, or you've been kind of already trying to become more like that aspect of love and you want to develop it further. So, right, there's different aspects, there's different, right, characteristics, so to speak, of love. So patience, kindness, not envious, like not boasting. So you're kind of like humble, you're, like you're chill. You're not dishonoring others. So you're respectful, not self-seeking. So, more like the generous, not easily angered. So, you keeping your peace more or less, keeping no records of wrong. So forgiveness, rejoices with the truth, right? You like honesty, having integrity, but also rejoicing just has to do with the idea of having joy. It protects, trusts and hopes and always perseveres. So you're going to pick an aspect of love and you're going to break it down into synonyms, a dictionary definition, the etymology or the history of your character word, and you'll also do 1 to 2 Bible verses about your character word and a picture of you becoming or being that character. So this was my example, right? I've been working on this for a while because one of the things I noticed about me is as much as I love people, I can sometimes have an edge to me, and I sometimes things come out more roughly than I mean for them. It's like my tongue can sometimes be a little bit, not so nice. So even when I mean it in love. So I'm not always known for my tact. Let me put it that way. So I said, I want to develop and become more gentle. So if I'm more gentle with myself and my self-talk, I'm a recovering perfectionist. So I used to be very, very, the first person I was always harsh to was myself. As a photographer, like I could rip my photo apart. Oh, this isn't good enough. This doesn't look right. If I had changed this about the light, like I was not gentle with myself. And as a result, I was always not gentle. I was not always gentle, particularly when it came to dating. So I was like, let me figure out how to fix this. So I came up with other words. I looked it up, and I found some other words and wrote them down. That mean gentle, affable, friendly. Like, am I my own friend? Right? My own self friend. These were questions I had to ask myself once I started realizing other words around gentle. I looked up in the dictionary and I found like some definitions for gentle were soft, moderate, honorably distinguished. Apparently, it also meant belonging to a family of high social station, which I thought was interesting, being like a child of God. We're royalty, so that makes us actually a very high social station, right? We're royalty, we're God's children. I did find it interesting. The history of the word, there's some French history, and then there's some Latin too. I went a little bit above and beyond. I wrote 4 different verses that have to do with gentleness. And then I drew a picture of me with my next relationship being more gentle. And that would make me happy and him happy. So, yes. So that's what you're going to be doing for the next, 10 minutes. Is you're going to be working on a character, an aspect that you want to either develop further, or you've just kind of noticed that, this might want to be a little bit improved. So this is kind of like a mindset shift. This is a really great way to, when you're having that emotion of fear, right? Okay, for example, my emotion of fear, I'm afraid, I'll go back to like my self-talk as a photographer. I'm afraid that my photography is not good enough. So I'm harsh with myself, right? I'm afraid that photo wasn't good enough. That's a fear, but that was really in my mind too. So when I switch and I have gentleness, I can switch in how I begin thinking about it. Well, you know what? Considering where I came from, like, this is really not bad. And I like this, like I could start replacing and talking to myself differently about my work. So yes, let me go back here and give you a little bit. Do either one of you have an idea of a character or aspect of love that you want to focus on tonight?
I see the word, but I just don't know what else to do with the word once I write the word down.
Oh, okay. Well, I can help you. I can go back over what you're going to do with the word. What word is it that you were looking at?
Patient.
Okay. So yes, so patient. And then I'm gonna put this up. So you'll have what you'll do. You'll like look up synonyms. So what are other words that mean patient? What's the
Oh.
dictionary say? The definition of patience according to the dictionary. Then you will literally go for the etymology, you're looking up the history. So you would literally type in etymology, Tymology of patience. And then there's this website here, and it will give you history on. It's interesting. It even says like when it was trending or not trending. Apparently in the 1800s, patience was really trending. And apparently in 1980, it was at an all-time low. That might say something about why we are where we are today. I don't know. But you know, like it looks like it's starting to go up a little bit in trending though. By 2019, it was up a little bit. Not at the all-time high it was, but it does seem like it's improving. So yeah, there's different things that you can learn about the history. It's just interesting to know. And then you can like Google like for Bible verses, you can just like simply, because you might not know any Bible verses about patience, but you would just Google like Bible verses about patience. Oh, look, here's 20 calming Bible verses, and you would pick 2 that really speak to you, you know?
What if you're not really sure what word to pick?
Okay. Well, why I wouldn't overthink it. What is a aspect of it that appeals to you? Or do you have many things that appeal to you?
Many, like the patience or the gentleness that you said. Just pick one.
Yeah. What do you think would serve you best at this point in your life? The gentleness or the patience?
Okay.
Yeah. So pick what you think would serve you best. I know it's a lot. Sometimes it's hard to know where to start. Does anyone have any more questions? Okay, so I'm gonna set the timer. Would you like some jazz while you're working? So let me get the fireside jazz on. And I'll just do this for about 8 minutes. And let me know if you get stuck with anything. Please. Okay. No, pause our music. How are you ladies doing? Yes, I see Jessica's nodding. So I'm gonna take that as a good nod. It looks like a yes nod. Tamika, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm like laughing because I don't remember the last time I drew anything.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a part. I said I was laughing because I don't remember the last time I drew anything.
Oh, yes. It's fun, isn't it? To draw. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. My drawing was a little stick figure, right? But it does make it fun. So before we wrap up for this evening, is there anything that when you were doing your word study that surprised you or you found interesting, or anything that you'd like to share? You're like, huh.
Um, I think the one of the things that I like the two verses that I found, which was hot tempers causes arguments, but patience brings peace.
Yeah.
And the second one was the Lord will fight for you. You need to only be still.
That's one of my favorite ones. Yeah. Sometimes we think we have to do the fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually, yeah, those two really go together well, because we can get in a fight with ourselves too. Forget other people. Or am I the only one who's been in a fight with myself? No. Um, yes. So, yeah, it's important. It does bring peace. We can have peace with ourselves when we're not fighting ourselves and or the world. It doesn't mean that we don't take on social causes or anything. I'm not saying, doesn't mean we don't like fight for social justice or anything, but I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like part where you're just like so uptight, you can't sleep, you can't think, you're just beside yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you for sharing, Tamika. Jessica, were there any thoughts you wanted to share out before we wrap?
Not really. The same thing with the scriptures. There's one that says, gracious words are honeycomb sweet to the soul and healing to the bones.
Yeah.
And a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger.
Yes. The first one that you shared about healing and health to our body, to our bones, reminds me also of the life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
How we speak to ourselves or how we speak to others can literally give us life, or our relationships life, or they can kill them, or at least cause problems that were potentially unnecessary. So good work, ladies. Yes. How are you feeling?
Well, let me see if you can see my
I see
picture.
you. Yes, I love it. You look chill there. You look
I
relaxed.
was going to draw like the arms up, and I was like, no, I can't do it. So then I reverted and just said, okay, no, that looks like it's almost folding. So, and it's supposed to be like a thinking bubble at the end, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. You're thinking good, patient thoughts. I love it, Tamika. It's great. It really is. Yeah, you didn't know you were drawing when you signed up for this, did you?
No, I did not.
I was a teacher for 20 years and I did like aspects of this, with students, but I taught ESL. So I would do aspects of this to teach vocabulary. So like I broke it down similar to, so I'm just like borrowing from all aspects of my life to like put these things together for you all to make it understandable, but yes. So if you don't have any thoughts or any last things that you wanted to share or questions, any questions? Okay, so we'll wrap up. I'll do a quick prayer and then we'll end until tomorrow night at 8. So yes, Father God, I just thank you so much for Tamika, and I thank you so much for Jessica, and I just thank you for all the things that you're going to share with them, and for just giving them your spirit of peace and your spirit of patience and your spirit of love. And just when you give, you do give generously, so just give them generous portions of everything that they need, and you know what those things are. And I thank you in advance for blessing them. In Jesus' name, amen. Yeah, that's it for tonight. I am going to be sending you an email. Jessica, I'm going to add you to the Evict Fear because I don't think you signed up for it, right? But you got the link.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but I'm going to add you to the email because I don't, yeah. So you'll get in the morning. I don't know if you saw Tamika this morning, there's like an inspiration for meditation on during the day. And then if you guys join the Facebook group, there's a link to that you can like comment on the inspiration, or you can, write or whatever, interact, get to know each other outside of the challenge too. So yes. So yeah, have a good night, and I'll see you both tomorrow. And hopefully, I don't know where everyone else was. There was 10 of you. Jessica, you make 11. So I don't know where the other 9 people are. But they're somewhere. That's why I'm recording. So you guys will get the recording as well. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Welcome. Of
Look
course.
up poltergeist, please.
Oh my gosh. How
Just
do
look it up. Just
how do
look
I
up
spell it?
Oh, the movie.
poltergeist one. So you guys who know what I was talking about, at least. I can't believe it.
How do I spell it, Tamika?
Poltergeist? Oh gosh. POLTIGIEST.
Guys. Okay. I
And the
will
main character was the little girl Caroline.
Okay. I will Google it to see to see what you're talking about.
Maybe you'll catch at least the why I said that, it reminded me of that movie, because it was really at the end of that movie what they had to do and what they were trying to tell them to make everything right.
Cool. That's
So
very
even if you just saw that one clip, so you guys won't be scared.
Thank you, ladies.
All right, take care,
Have
ladies.
a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You
Good
too.
night.